Hello, welcome to the Turret of Pleasure, here in the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I am the host of your show today. We're going to be talking about thrift stories. I'm Zip Gunn, the Lord Chamberlain of the Enchanted Kingdom, and I'm the resident archivist up here in the turret. And I'll tell you what, things have been going crazy. We are reaching critical mass, as you may be able to see in the environs here. We've been going through a period of growth, thanks to a couple of thrift store blasts, as I call them. And these are events in the local thrift stores where suddenly there's just a whole bunch of the same thing. Usually same very narrowly prescribed areas of music. And I've had that happen to me, and I've had it happen in the weirdest places. The thing about thrift stores, it's like fishing. There's places there where the fishing's pretty good. There's places where the fishing's not very good. But just every once in a while, you'll find a big fish in one of the lousy places. Or you'll sit in one of the good places and nothing will happen. And this happened to me recently. We went just sort of doing a bunch of things, managed to hit all the local thrift stores. And one of the thrift stores that we just happened to find ourselves at, the Empress and I, was one that I don't normally find anything at. It's sort of curated, which means that somebody in the back goes, I've never heard of this, and throws it away. But this one, for once, it was a gold mine. And what I've got here, I don't know if I'm going to disrupt the camera. Oh, fuck, why not? After all, this is not. But this is sort of the part of it, anyway, of the week's catch, if you will. And number one was the Salvation Army thrift store in the middle of Langford. Rarely is it very good. They don't seem to have much room for CDs. And like I say, somebody's going through them and going, nobody wants this. But luckily, whoever they are, if this is what they do, they've heard of Muddy Waters. So, here I am, Muddy Waters one more time. Muddy Waters, his best 56 to 64, 47 to 55. They had T-bone walkers. Oh my goodness. These, by the way, folks, were $2. And I can say this is all mixed up. But I know there's a B.B. King and Bobby Bland in here. The best of Dennis Brown is in here. Sadly, I fear somebody has died. This one made me laugh. David Gogo. Now, there's a story behind this because I was in a band that was signed to EMI at exactly the same time as this record came out. We were kind of the two new EMI artists from the island, which was completely terra incognita for the big labels in those days. And both bands went on to bigger and better things, but I'd never heard that record before, and I played it. It's actually pretty damn good. It does sound very 1995, though. Jimmy Dawkins, Jimmy Dawkins. And then there was also a couple of great big band records. So, I mean, this is stuff that just doesn't show up very often. Claude Thornhill, Gil Evans trained with him, Charlie Barnett and his orchestra, which I still haven't made up my mind whether I love them or not. And Jimmy Dawkins, who I really don't know anything about him. And I haven't played this yet. Now, I will warn you, I haven't played everything here yet. I've been trying, believe me. JSP, European label. So this is sort of like a second division blues record, perhaps. And, but this is stuff I wanted in my collection. Oh, here's the other one. These I'm not so crazy about. Three volume set of John Lee Hooker. Now, is it good? Yep. Good stuff. Is there any information whatsoever telling you where it's from? No. Absolutely nothing. The only information is the titles. There's a booklet. Oh, yeah. They went to the trouble of printing a booklet. And the booklet is in the double CD, which they went to the trouble of including as well. And there's your booklet. And the booklet has Suecia, which suggests it's made in Switzerland, but it says made in Italy. And there you go. The booklet consists of the titles with the writing credits. Oh, good. And they're not very complete writing credits. So this is an absolute, But is the music good? It's fantastic. So yes, I'll keep it. Yeah, I'll bitch about it. Of course I will. Art Tatum. Miriam Makeba, one of her reprise records. Barbara Dennerlein on the Hammond organ. She from Germany, who I really am fond of. So there was all of this blues. All this blues. There's a Father Hines record here somewhere. I'm like, you just don't find Father Hines records in the thrift stores. And it's all stuff I'm happy as a clam to pay $2 for it. Now, further, this gets weird. There was also a select scattering of rock records, maybe kind of, where did they all go now? I'm trying to do this in bits, so bear with me. There, James Booker, yeah. Piano Wizard Live. Like, there was about 4 or 5 of these very random blues records. Art Tatum, Piano Starts Here. Nobody hits the highest note of the piano the way Art Tatum hits that note. It is the ultimate piano punctuation point, and I've had a very piano week. I'll tell you that, because we'll get to this in a minute. Anyway, the blues, there was the blues. There was the big bands. Great. There was these, and then there was, the dribs and drabs through here, which come and go. This always happens. Like Chick Corea Time Warp. Okay, GRP, this should be a great record. It's not a great record. It's an okay record. I don't know what happened with Chick Corea, but I did not like him in the last part of his career. And I love his piano playing. And then I found this. I bought this GRP Tribute to the Beatles. This, folks, I'll buy any Beatles-oriented thing if it's cheap. Just because I have fun with them. I do pile-ups with them sometimes. And the Beatles are a huge force in 60s, 70s culture. And so, as a result, their influence on the other popular culture is significant. But this is crap. This is just a terrible, terrible, terrible record. Yesterday by Dave Grusin, I put this on my stick in my car, and by the third song I was skipping them because I immediately realized, oh, this is from that record. No, I don't want to hear that. Puts me in a bad mood. So that was one. I found a Mark Atkinson trio record, which Mark is an old buddy, and he does what can very easily, quickly, but not perfectly accurately be described as Django music. Great playing if you're into that kind of thing. Great guitar playing. The guy, I once shared a stage with him for half a night, and he had sliced his finger open to the tendon, and he still played fucking circles around me. It was embarrassing. I found Yes Songs. Okay. For $2 I'll buy this. I always found it curious. This was their big first triple live album, and it happened just as Bill Bruford left the band to go join King Crimson. So you would think that this would feature all the new drummer, but it doesn't. In fact, it features 3 songs featuring Bill Bruford. And curiously, one of those 3 songs has the only drum solo on this, which doesn't mean as much now as it did in 1973, but I always found that kind of odd. I suppose it means there was no needle between them when he quit. Nobody needs this. The studio records are far better, but it's great to have just as a memento of times gone by. So basically the blues Sally Ann hit was just like, about 4 days later, I was going to go into town and I had some time to kill. And as I do, I'll run through the local thrift stores. Now, I'd hit every thrift store in town in the last week. So it's unlikely I'm going to find much. And of course, I did the first, 4, and came up with nothing. So I was all ready to pack it in. And I thought, well, there's that one other one over in View Royal. And I'd been there a week ago, and it's a very difficult thrift store to go through because you got to crane your neck, and then you got to crawl around on the floor, and there's fluorescent lights, and it's a task. But I dutifully, because I'm resolute, I went over there, and of course, was completely overwhelmed with world music. And when I say world music, I mean, oh, and I can't remember their name, and I've already put them away, but I can find them quickly enough. Hun Hurtu. Thank you. Hun Hurtu. Now, if you've ever heard of Hun Hurtu, they are the Tuvan throat singing guys. They basically were the tip of the iceberg for that. Found 3 of them. I found that. I found these 2, which are Live Volume 1, Live Volume 2, Russian label, recorded in Karelia, very well recorded. That's from about 2000, so that's significantly after the Shinachi group they did about 5 records for Shinachi. They are fantastic. The minute I saw those, I went, oh my God, well, what did we have? We got the Rough Trade. Remember the Rough Guide to Music? These are pretty good. This is a 3 CD sampler for like $2. I'll buy that. And Miriam Makeba, Keep Me in Mind, which is not great. It's somebody at Reprise decided they were going to try and make her into a conventional pop star, which only partially works, although she's a great singer. And now here I'm just pulling these out at random because there's a lot of them. And you're just like that. Oh, and then just for weird good measure, there were 2 David Bowie CDs in there. No, I've not heard this. I've heard it's not like great. But 2 David Bowie CDs. The other one being Hunky Dory, which I like, I don't have, and this is completely ridiculous. It's a gold one. These are apparently worth more on the collector's market. I could care less, but it did factor into my buying the gold. Look at this tray. You love these trays. This is a big pain in the ass tray. The gold Eric Clapton disc. Now this is also made in USA. They'll want you to think it's made in Japan. But look at this tray. It's like, now it won't come out. Oh, great. Now this has to be the easiest to break jewel box in history. So just the fact that it has the jewel box still working all these years later is a miracle. What else have we got here? Shit, I knew that was going to happen. Anyways, this stuff is all stuff I'll buy. Jai Utal, which has a Bill Laswell connection. Petrol Chile. These are okay. They're kind of mainstream stuff. Marimba music from the Pacific coast of Colombia on Smithsonian. No, I haven't heard it yet. It's got to be good. Ustad Ali Abarkan on an EMI, but it's not EMI. Looks like it's been photocopied at the corner store. So you know it's official EMI. Haven't played this yet, but I love the guy. And again, music from Rajasthan on Arion. I'll buy pretty much anything on Arion if it's cheap. Italian Treasury, Emilia Romagna. I don't know. It's Italian. What label? It's on Rounder. So I went, sure, I'll take a chance on that. This is on Yazoo, which apparently, I didn't know this, is now part of the Shinachi empire. Shinachi are a terrific label, but I wish they would hire somebody who has a way with fonts, because their graphic design is just absolutely the pits. And it's like a Musical Heritage Society who drove me crazy with the world's worst graphic design. And I hate to say it, but it makes a difference. So, that's really being pork sniffy, I know. Another thing I bought, and this was in the thrift store where everything's a quarter. Oh, you love it. When it's a quarter, it makes a difference. Things are different. So, at the quarter thrift store, and I'm trying to find them all now. Oh, God, they're everywhere. Nope. I found a whole bunch, and for a quarter, I'll take a chance. What did I find here? I found that. I found that, and that. I found... Yes. See, the quarter thrift store is where... Oh, out of the blues one, the best of Blue Diddley as well. That was in the blues thing. Music of Armenia. I found 3 world music, or real world CDs. This is one from Tuva. I haven't heard it yet. And I also heard this Indian slide guitarist who is amazing. This guy is really good. He's pretty well known, but it's difficult to find this stuff in the West. You got to kind of go looking for it. What else is it? I even took off for a quarter. Yes. Okay, so for a quarter, for example, here's an example. What is this I'm looking at? I was going to separate these into, where and when I bought them, but I've been playing them, and after a while they got kind of porridged up. So at the local thrift store for a quarter, I found, no, for a quarter, come on. Yeah, I'm going to play it once. I don't think it's very good. Who was on it that made me go, Oh, Rod Stewart and Bernard Edwards produced it. That's why. That's why I said a quarter. Now, of course, they didn't produce the whole record. Richard Perry is on board, duet with Tina Turner. Lenny Waronker co-produces one. Trevor Horn, maybe. I don't think so. It won't stick. Martinis with Mancini for a quarter. I'll buy it. What does it have to do with anything? Nothing. Martinis with Mancini. I think if I remember right, this was during the sort of lounge revival. And the powers that be said, well, Mancini was kind of loungy. Let's make a lounge CD. Found this for a quarter. My dear friend Linda McRae. I once played a show with Linda on about a day's notice. I knew none of the songs. I was playing bass. In this music, you'd better know the fucking root notes of the fucking songs. And I crammed for this gig and squeaked through it, which was a great relief. And she was gracious and said I sounded fantastic, which I don't really think I did. But Linda and I have known each other a long time. She's been making great records out of the singer-songwriter tradition for a long time now. Boy, I think I don't know where she is now. Nashville? She was in Nashville. She played in local bands here in Victoria way back in the 70s. If you get a chance to hear, if you like stuff, the other thing I found was Lucinda Williams, I really like this record. I've always heard about this woman. I have never heard much of her music, and I saw, this is a very highly rated record. Okay, this was a quarter, and I put it in the car, and I love it. So there you go. Sometimes it just takes setting it up right, but where you listen to it for the first time. Now these, okay. Other than this, Maureen McGovern, this is weird. Now, I had a roommate, classical flautist, who was obsessed with Maureen McGovern. And particularly her record, Another Woman in Love, which he said was exactly like Schubert. And he drank a lot of wine in his leisure hours. And I never quite made this connection, but it led me to a fascination with this woman, because he would sit there and listen to her records and weep openly. This looks like it might be horrible, except I noticed that Gary Burton was a soloist on it. And that Pat Moran is one of the engineers. Now, Pat Moran, didn't he do Iggy Pop's Soldier? Anyways, I thought for a quarter I'm going to give this a shot. I have only heard what's the song called? The Island, which is an experience, because Gary Burton kind of starts it all out with a bunch of extremely atmospheric vibes, as you might expect. And then she does this wild, deeply reverberant, erotic vocal performance that kind of I think you either like it or you don't. And I was, bemused. And I'm going to keep listening to that. So I found that was a quarter. And the other stuff I like to experiment with is, okay, pop music from the Orient. I don't know who this is. Yuki Koyanagi. The covers on Dream Machine record. I see I Feel the Earth Move. Okay. Who's Crying Now? MacArthur. She does MacArthur Park. For a quarter. Now, I haven't listened to any of these. This is where setting in the moment comes in. I might find this to be a transcendent CD if I'm in the correct frame of mind. Cry Me a River, Bridge Over Troubled Water, followed by Mandy. Holy smoke. Okay, I'm looking forward to that one. This is the same person. Apparently, they don't look similar, but I don't know. Maybe it's an earlier record. My All. And what is this? Featuring tracks Small, produced by Fantastic Plastic Machine. So this looks a lot like just sort of Japanese pop. Sometimes I like these records for what they are. Sometimes they're unbelievably repellent, and then every once in a while you get one like the guy whose name I can't remember, but I could find it because it starts with an I, where it's like a super Japanese pop record, and in the middle of it there's a George Clinton with Vernon Reid song, and you're like, what the and it's great, and you're like, okay, I don't know what this is. The word Peru is in it. It's on Hip-O Records, which I've heard of. I didn't even look up a review on it yet. I just said, 25 cents, I'm buying it. Buy it. I'll get back to you on that one. Then there's was there one more? Who's this? Now this is Kimiko Ito. And this looks to be kind of Japanese lounge jazz of a fairly decent ilk. I looked at a couple of reviews that said basically she's good, but she's not that good. New York State of Mind. Bridge Over Troubled Water. Really? That's 2. Oh dear. Well, you know what that means. There's going to be a showdown. We're going to have the Bridge Over Troubled Water showdown for a later video, I think. There's a song called Love by John Winston Lennon. Not John Ono Lennon. Okay, well, yeah, we'll give that a listen. And then there's this guy, and this could be great, but I suspect it's terrible. This looks really terrible. A guy named Masahito Hino, sorry. And he appears to be a cornet player, jazz cornet player, who is quite deeply indebted to Woody Shaw, which is great by me. John Scofield's on this, Bobby Watson, Onaye Allen Gums on piano, who's actually great. Victor Lewis on drums. Now this, I think, came out on Blue Note in the States. It's on something else in Japan. Special thanks to Bruce Lundvall, who ran Blue Note. Produced by Terumu Hino and Michael Kaskuna, who's a big wheel over at Blue Note and Legacy and whatnot. Mover Shaker. Haven't heard this yet. They do a Woody Shaw song, and then they do... Oh, the Woody Shaw song is dedicated to the memory of Woody Shaw. Who knew? They do Autumn Leaves. I wonder how necessary that was. And then this one looks... First of all, it's on Who Ring Records 1989. So this is old. And what year is this one? 1989, okay. This guy gets reasonable reviews, but... oh! And I think there are lyrics to some of these. So this, yeah. And who's on guitar? Nobody I've heard of. Kenji Hino. For a half second, I thought Keiji Hino was on it. But it's not Keiji Hino. I don't think it's Keiji Hino. That would be great if it is. Yeah, I don't recognize any of the names on this, although they are not Japanese. So this strikes me on the print is unbelievably mixed at Soundtrack New York, recorded at Eurosonic in Madrid, Soundtrack at Platinum Island, and the Automated in New York. Greg Mangafino is the co-producer, along with Hero. And this, I haven't heard anything yet off of this. I mean, there's something going on here. I think there's probably a Sadao Watanabe kind of thing going on here. Okay, so that's sort of was the second batch of stuff. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of world music. The third group of stuff to walk into my door. Oh, and then there was this. Oh, goodness. I got to single this one out. Just because I can't believe that this is probably worth what I paid for everything all in once. If you were to buy this, Yuri Kane, great, weird jazz pianist, and he takes on these strange projects. And everything I've got on this label, Winter and Winter, which is this extra, extra deluxe. If I don't like this package, but it's fancy and it's weird. I mean, I guess it's not terrible, but you gotta watch what you're doing with it. The embossed paper. Fred Frith has done some stuff on this label. I've got an amazing record by Kneebody doing Ives songs. I've got a Satie record. He combines, Winter and Winter like to combine classical and jazz a lot of the time, and nowhere do they succeed better than with this, even though I haven't listened to hardly any of it. But it's basically Yuri Kane taking on Mahler with his group, which features a trumpet player, an oud player, alto sax, drums, Yuri Kane on piano, Mark Feldman on violin, acoustic bass, and DJ Alive on turntables and live electronics. So there's just a whole lot of everything in this. Double CD. I'm waiting till I have a whole evening to sit and wallow in this. This also had a whole lot of... Oh, and this! Charlie Mariano. Played with Eberhard Weber with ECM. That's probably maybe his high point. Been around for a long, long time. He is a big fan of East Indian music, and he went to Bangalore, and made this CD, which is essentially an Indian jazz fusion CD. But there is a piece on this called Conversation with a K. I haven't looked yet to see if it's on YouTube. I'd be surprised if it is, which is essentially a trio or quartet of South Indian men doing what I call East Indian beatboxing, which is the ring dika dika da hey, ring dika da hey, the rhythmic, I don't know what you call it. I'm not sure what to call it. It's a jazz rock fusion one. So there's all these 17s and 9s, and it is amazing. It is absolutely spellbinding. I couldn't believe how good it was. And the rest of the record is just about as good. It is not traditional Indian music. It is a sort of a jazz fusion, heavily influenced by Indian music. Mariano only writes one song. The guitar player writes two, and he is from Bombay, I believe. I think everybody else on here is from India. Lewis Banks, the keyboardist, writes one. So everybody writes. It all holds together very well, though, considering the different number of composers. And that one was one of those, hey, out of the park. And what else did I find? Fuck. I mean, it's reinventing guitar. Well, there is an oud record here somewhere. I found some Zakir Hussain. I found some Ravi Shankar, like old Ravi Shankar. I found, what's this one? Reinventing Guitar, which there's a lot of sort of avant-garde. Here's one that I thought was interesting. Turkish Guitar on EMI, and this appears to be a series, but I don't know anything about the Inspiration series. Aims to encompass a broad spectrum of music from within the worldwide classical tradition, displaying its diversity and many colorful facets. 1994. I'm going to look this up. One wonders how big the Inspiration series actually was and what else was in it, because this looks interesting. Anatolian folk music for classical guitar. All right, now if this wasn't good enough, I have also recently been the recipient of gifts from people. And the first of which was my old friend Rob from Kamloops who I recorded years and years and years ago in his band Kaidayazam, who are this great, tricky fusion band. And Rob was the drummer, and a good drummer he is. One of those wonderful people. He has almost no vices, so he spends all his money on gear. So he has the most tricked out gear, and he is a gong collector. If you have a gong you don't want, let me know and I'll give it to Rob. Rob is a very, very kind soul, and years ago he got a hold of me and said, I've got this complete Stravinsky box set and it's just taking up space. Do you want it? And I'm like, do I want it? Never mind the fact I had it on vinyl. Yeah, I want it. So he sent it to me, which was really nice. And I thought, well, gee whiz. And I've been trying to find stuff to send to him since, and I haven't really hit upon everything because everything he likes he's already got. And he likes stuff like Vangelis and likes a lot of prog rock, so we got a lot of common interests. Anyway, he was mentioning another record that I sort of had heard about, and he just mentioned in passing that he had accidentally been sent an extra copy of it. Did I want it? And it's this. And again, I know I haven't played this yet because I want to give it a proper auditioning. But this is a strange record because Colin Scott was really well known at the time, but only for a very brief sort of moment. And this record, no, it doesn't say, it says on the front cover. This record was produced by a guy named John Anthony. And he was doing bands like Genesis and Van der Graaf Generator. He worked for the Charisma Group, I guess you would call them. Now look at who's on this. Robert Fripp, Rick Wakeman, Peter Hamill is on it, I do believe. Members of Van der Graaf Generator, it says, but I think almost all of them. People from Genesis, Lindisfarne, Rare Bird, and Brinsley Schwartz. So this is a who's who of people on this record, but it's 1970, so it's before they were legends. Like, okay, here's more. Yeah, Nick Potter from Van der Graaf, Brinsley Schwartz, Davey Johnson from Elton John, Peter Hamill, Peter Gabriel, backing vocals, Dave Jackson on sax from Van der Graaf, Guy Evans on drums from Van der Graaf, 8-track masters. When did they record this? Anyway, Colin Scott was he was sort of a folky. He did a lot of covers, but on this record he did a lot of originals. And this record is kind of, apparently this picture really sums the man up. Hard living, having a great time all the time. He was a good draw in the clubs in those days. And John Anthony made this record, I think, on spec. And our old buddy who I've been talking about a lot lately, Andrew Lauder, who had been running United Artists Records for not very long by then, he found out about it, he says, well, you guys have already paid for the recording, I'll put it out. Which they did, and not really much happened. Despite back then nobody knew who all these guys were. And the record came out, and it's become sort of a cult classic. And subsequent to that, he put out 2 records, but only in England for Warner Brothers. And they didn't have the cast of thousands, and they did nothing. So there you go. But I want to give this a good listen because apparently he was quite well known at the time, and he was a pretty good draw. So yeah. But anyway, thanks Rob, because once again he's a very kind-hearted soul who's happy to share stuff. The other one, what else did I get? Oh, and then okay, the other two more here. I'll save that one till last. My dear friend the Ramage Inc. Just mentioned to me, he says, do you have this? And I go, well, no. And as it turns out, he also we share the same turf in Langford, and so every so often he'll get in there and scoop stuff that maybe I want. But a lot of the time he gets stuff I don't want, and vice versa. And but sometime, somewhere, he found this. Dave Edmunds, I'm a very big fan. And it's funny because I hope I didn't appear churlish and thankless, because this should be a far better anthology than it is. But I get why it is the way it is. There's a lot of stuff missing that I really wish was on here. Unforgivably, Sweet Little Lisa is not on this with Albert Lee, which is the single most amazing guitar performance that Edmonds had anything to do with. It doesn't have Jojo Gunn on it, which is on the bunch of Stiff records, which is really, really, really good. Really good example of what Dave was getting up to in the early 70s at Rockfield Studios. And it doesn't have a lot of the B-sides he did for the Swan Song records, like New York's a Lonely Town, which is a great song, very obscure song. He did it all by himself, Phil Spector-like, and it's really hard to find. It's on YouTube. I mean, I can get it for free, but it should be on here. And instead, you get stuff you don't fucking need, like anything off the Jeff Lynne records. I don't like the Jeff Lynne records at all. I think he did, to sum him up very quickly, he was in a band called Love Sculpture, who had a hit in England with the Sabre Dance, which is a ridiculous guitar workout. That is on here. Other than that, then they did Farandole from Bizet, which is almost exactly the same thing, and that's on here as well. But really, other than that, they were kind of a not great pop blues band, and they broke up, and then he started hanging out at Rockfield Studios in Wales, and he banged out this version of I Hear You Knockin' just by himself, and it was a surprise hit. It was quite a big hit, in fact. And so he put out a record called Rock Pile on MAM Records, along with, Gilbert O'Sullivan and Engelbert Humperdinck. But they didn't have a band or anything, and so he kind of floated around. He did a lot of drinking, and I think he did a lot of speed. And he basically turned into a studio recluse. And in about 1972, he put out a record called Subtle as a Flying Mallet, which shows loads of promise, but it's not fantastic. Stiff Records put out a few things of his from around this era. They're fun, but they're a little unfocused. And so one day he was in the studio, and Robert Plant wandered in. They started chatting, and Plant says, well, we've just started a new record label. You should be on it. So the next thing you know, Dave is on Swan Song. And so with Swan Song, he put out a pile of great records. He put out a record called Get It, which I remember buying when it came out, which was the best rock and roll record I'd ever heard, I think. And it was the sort of, with Get It was planted the seeds of the band Rock Pile. By the next record, Tracks on Wax 4, it was Rock Pile. Billy Bremner, Nick Lowe, Terry Williams. That was the band. And they did that record, and then they also did Nick Lowe's Labor of Lust record. Then the third record they did was Repeat When Necessary, which was with Rock Pile. Special guest, Albert Lee, and you gotta hear that track. That's an amazing track. And then Rock Pile got a deal as a band with Columbia, and they did a record on Columbia called Seconds of Pleasure. And really, these are all kind of the same band. And they also did half of Mickey Jupp's Japanese, which is fabulous. And they did Carlene Carter's Musical Shapes album, which is also excellent. And really, if there was some way to put all this stuff into a box, I don't know. It's all owned by different people. Might be too much trouble. But so Rock Pile they were great. I saw them live in '81, backed up by Moon Martin, who was also pretty damn good. And then suddenly they had a big beef management-wise, and they split up. And Dave did one last record for Swan Song, which is pretty good. It's a little bit all over the place, but it's great. Stray Cats play on one song. He was just getting involved with them. And then he got a deal with, then they did the Rock Pile band album. Or actually, no, he did the Rock Pile band album, and he got a solo deal with Columbia once his Swan Song deal had expired. He owed them one more album, which was Twangin'. So then after Twangin', he went over to Columbia, and his records really went off in quality for me. They lost all their edge. He still picked some pretty good songs. The band wasn't really Rock Pile. It was guys that were almost as good as Rock Pile. And he made a record, what was it, DE 7th? Not bad. Worth owning. And for me, this compilation works best as a best of the Columbia years, which means that it's from track 12 on disc 2. And everything there is good. Not everything on those albums is good. 2 of the albums with Jeff Lynne are actually kind of awful. I mean, they're okay, but they're lame. And Dave Edmunds was never lame. He's not in great health right now. He had a very, very near-death experience a couple of months back. Last I've heard it, he's still with us, but I don't think he's doing very well. And it's good to think about Dave Edmunds, because I'll tell you what, this guy knew how to rock. And he's a fantastic guitar player and a real taste monster when it comes to real rock and roll music. So thanks, Glenn. If I seemed churlish about it, I was just because I wish they would ask me to put it together. But that doesn't happen. Finally, gift number 3. These are great gifts. I got taken out as a gift by the great David P. Smith, who said that he was asking if I was going to go see Bob Wiseman play here in Victoria. And I don't know Bob Wiseman. Hardly at all. I know literally nothing about the man. All I know is that he's apparently very good. And I think it was, he says, I'll buy you a ticket. Okay. So I was going to meet him downtown at the gig. And I go into the foyer, and there's 2 guys sitting there with their looked like a little merch table, and I realize it's Bob Wiseman. So we start chatting. I was wearing my Sun Ra shirt. Always a great icebreaker with guys like Bob Wiseman. So he's right there, and he's sitting with another guy, and I literally didn't know anything about this tour. It's called 2 Pianos, No Rodeo. And first of all, I didn't know that's what it was called. Second of all, I didn't know there was anybody else playing. I mean, I'm pure ignorance. As it turns out, the idea for the tour, which is a clever one, was Bob Wiseman, who is largely known for his involvement with Blue Rodeo, Canadian supergroup that literally I know nothing about. Nothing! I couldn't name you a song. I think one of the guys' names is Jim Cuddy. I know that they are lionized in Canada, but I don't know anything about them. I believe they're kind of country-ish, maybe, but I don't know. No idea. It's not that I hate them or anything, it just never crossed my radar. So, Bob Wiseman was in Blue Rodeo. He's gone on and made some very quirky records, and the only connection I have with the man is he's worked with my friend Eugene Chadbourne. There you go. Which appears on his resume more often than you might think. Now, what I didn't realize is that the other piano in the No Rodeo was a guy named Mike Boguski. Who? Boguski? Boguski, I'm assuming. And I didn't know of this man's existence until I walked in the door. And he was sitting there, we started chatting about things, and it turns out he is the current pianist in Blue Rodeo. So there I am with the pianists of Blue Rodeo, a band I don't know anything about. And we're talking about Sun Ra and Cecil Taylor and Conlon Nancarrow and Abdallah Ibrahim and all these great piano players. Both of these guys are great advocates of piano improvisation. And one of the things about the tour was they needed to play at a place with a good piano. And Herman's in Victoria has a very nice piano. It's a really great place for a piano concert. You can get about 100 people in there, and I do believe it was sold out. Now, this was really neat because we started talking just about music, and then, of course, I mentioned Eugene Chadbourne. Oh, you know Eugene Chadbourne, and of course, you make your connections right then and there. And so we sort of established that we were kindred spirits, but that I was this poor ignoramus that needed to be educated. So I was free about it. I said, hey, I'm here to learn all about you guys. This will be great. And it was great, and they were both really good, and they were both very different. But at the last moment, as we were just sort of, as my friend David came with the tickets, Mike handed me his 2 CDs. I said, here, listen to these and tell me what you think. And I'm like, really? I mean, aren't you trying to sell these? And I didn't. Funny thing was, I didn't have any money. I was broke, which was why David was buying me a ticket. But I took these with great gratitude, and of course, I managed to listen to them on the computer, so I haven't even opened them yet. And I like them both. This one is basically sort of a jazz fusion experimental, not very experimental, but really well done, really well recorded. Parts of it I found maybe a little too Fusaki for me. Other parts of it I really enjoyed. And then this one is more solo piano, a little bit more piano improvisation. When these guys, they had large sections of the concert, for both of them, were free improvised. And I heard a lot of my favorite piano players. I heard some Keith Jarrett, I heard a little bit of, Mike had a little bit of Liberace in him, like the descending chromatic 3-octave things, which were great. He really threw them off. And it was a great piano fix. Another great joy for me was when Bob started singing a song, and he was mentioning things like drove a school bus in Calgary, and Hendrix thought she was great. And I'm like, it sounds like he's singing about Ellen McElwain. And he gets to the chorus and he goes, Ellen McElwain. And I'm like, you wrote a song about Ellen McElwain? All right. So I immediately loved Bob Wiseman. I liked him so much I bought his book, which I am currently enjoying the hell out of. And it's like, yeah, half those stories happen to me. So great, and it was a gift from a musician to a musician. I thank you, Mike Boguski. By God, I'm gonna have to go listen to some Blue Rodeo. That's all there is to it. Maybe I'll fit it in my listening sessions with the Kiss Alive record that I'm trying to get through. But there you go. Thrift stores. I don't think there's $100 spent here. In fact, it's more like 70. So $70, and I've got, well, now my world music section is in critical mass. I don't know what to do. I've got no room for all this stuff. And some of it I will eventually, like this Japanese pop is almost certainly not all going to stick unless there's something amazing about some of it. But there you have it. Look at that. And this is what I do in my retirement because it's fun, the hunt. And yeah, one of these days you'll find out that I've been crushed by a wall of CDs, but that's okay. I can think of worse ways to go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I got more stuff in the pipeline. It's percolating. It's in the brewing luminous, as Cecil Taylor would say. Look after each other, and try to not get too frustrated by the rest of the world because it's easy. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.